You're listening to the Valley Labor Report with David Story and Jacob Morrison.
One thing that I like about the IWW, the reason that I'm a member of the IWW is that anybody can be a member. You can be a member of the IWW even if you're in another union like David and I are, or if you currently don't have a job and you want to help other workers organize, or you want to organize for the rights of unemployed folks and for things that unemployed folks need. It's a really inclusive union that anybody can be a part of. And a big reason that I wanted to join a union like that is because as a member of the American Federation of Government Employees, I can't go to my local bar, let's say, and say, hey, do you want to join AFGE? You want to organize with AFGE? I can't do that. AFGE only organizes government workers, whereas as a member of the IWW, I can actually talk to my bartender or talk to my barista and say, hey, let me know if you want to make your life better and build a union in your workplace, and I can help you because that's why I'm in the labor movement. That's why I do what I do, is so that I can help build class consciousness in the working class, help to build worker power, help to create a world that is run by and for workers.
Yeah. And you really need the labor movement. When you talk about the labor movement has dwindled down to, as far as percentage-wise goes, based on the rest of employment, to 10, 8, 12%, depending on what part of the nation you're in. But this ability to organize through the IWW allows you to organize across all different occupations and professions, and that's so important in building that solidarity. Not just on your shop floor, but throughout your entire city.
Right.
Because that's where you're going to start seeing the tremendous gains.
Yeah, through your city, through your state, through your country, and through the world. The working class is international. You have more in common with peasants in Guatemala than you do with Jeff Bezos. So that's an important thing to remember. Oh shoot! There was something that I was going to say, and I lost track.
My bad.
No, that's not a problem. That was my fault.
But organize.
Yeah, you should organize. Everybody should organize.
We go back to the same thing.
That's
every
right.
week.
That's
organize.
Right. Yeah, I lost my train of thought, so I'm just going to tell people to organize. But I mean, it's important though. That's how. He was talking. So Maxim was talking about fighting not only for gains on the shop floor, but fighting against fascism and social regression, and doing that through the labor movement. That is how working people have won in the past. That's how we won against fascism in the past. That's how we fought back against social regression in the past. The labor movement has always been at the center of any significant movement that actually helped working people in America.
Yeah.
I mean,
we've discussed it in the past. The whole reason MLK was in Memphis when he was assassinated was for the sanitation workers.
Right.
And the UAW had a big hand
in the March on Washington.
In the March on Washington.
There wouldn't have been transportation if it wasn't for the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, led by A. Philip Randolph. I mean, and then the abolitionist movement. There was a lot of labor unionists in there. And
a lot of people don't recognize that when MLK Jr. went to prison in Birmingham in our own state, the UAW came in and posted the bail for him to get out.
I didn't know that.
I mean, that is a fact.
Right, and it's so the New Deal. Why do if you're an older listener and you're relying on, and you've got Medicare and you have Social Security, how did that come about? That did not happen because FDR, enlightened liberal, kingmaker or what, that didn't happen because he was so benevolent and loving and whatever. It happened because he could not but do that. Like, he could not help but doing that because there was a militant workers' movement led by radicals that had power on shop floors across the country that demanded support for our elderly, for our poor, for people that needed health care, that needed a retirement pension. That, like, something...
It was a concession.
Yes.
It was a concession based on the Haymarket affair. I mean, that is the absolute fact. It was a concession by the government to the workers because they were in absolute unbelievable numbers in the streets demanding respect on the job.
Right. And you know, folks, like, they don't know that. They don't, like, recognize that people, like, I mean, people literally fought and died and were killed, were assassinated by the state or by mercenaries that were contracted by the state
or mercenaries that were contracted
the Pinkertons.
By the companies that had the support of the federal government.
Yeah, I mean, that is how we got every freedom that we have in and from the workplace today. Was not bequeathed to us. And even outside of the workplace, like freedom of speech. David and I are both incredibly pro freedom of speech. And I have harped on this multiple times on the show. How did we get such broad free speech rights and protections from the government to be able to express our opinions? It came from militant workers' movements. When the First Amendment was written, it meant basically nothing. Right. Most of the country, you could be jailed for having a different opinion. You could be jailed for being an atheist or not being a Christian or being black or a communist. I mean, American citizens were literally deported because they were, quote unquote, subversives. Because they had anti-capitalist ideologies in the early 20th century. And this is something like freedom of speech did not mean anything until these people were willing to put their bodies out on the line and put their labor power on the line for these rights, not just for themselves, but for other people's. Like the ACLU was founded by members of, one of the founders was a member of the IWW as well. And they don't just, the ACLU does not just fight for the rights of like radicals and or liberals or they defended Nazis' rights to march in the streets because like this is a democratic value, the freedom of speech, and the fact that every worker should have the right to express themselves, and these rights were not won by the founders putting that in the Bill of Rights. They were won by people in the streets, people going on strike, people engaging in work stoppages, stuff like that. And that is how we're going to win gains for the working class moving forward. It's not going to be that, we elected Joe Biden and he did and he saved the country. Okay.
Nobody's coming to save the country.
Nobody's coming. Like, we have to do it. We have to organize. We have to get organized. And we have to use our organization to fight against social regression. We have to use our organizations as workers. We have to stand with our brothers and sisters to fight for each other because nobody is coming to save us from the top.
Yeah, it goes back to the same thing that when we originally started the show. And what we've talked about throughout the entire time we've been on this show is regardless of what these talking heads on the right want to tell you, no one is coming to save you. I've been around for 50 years. And in the entire 50 years, I've seen Democratic presidents, I've seen Republican presidents, and almost nothing has changed. Mm. Now, they're going to play it up like, oh, Lord, if this is the most important election ever, if we don't get X person elected, the whole world's going to come to an end. There's going to be rioting in the streets. There's already rioting in the streets. Right. There's going to be people moving to the suburbs, coming after your guns and yada, yada, yada. And I've heard it for 50 damn years. Mm-hmm. And then nothing has changed. The only way to change anything is to organize a movement and demand it.
Yeah. That's like you're just, I think, like, I know that I'm going to be voting, I vote for Democrats, right? But
Surely not.
Surely not. Surely not. But, I take 15 minutes out of my day, and some people have to take a longer time to go and vote. I happen to be in a majority white precinct, and so they make sure that we have access to the ballot booth. Now, if you go into the Black Belt and you look at some of those lines that were there on the primary election day, people were waiting in Alabama for hours to go and vote. And it just so happened to be a majority-minority precinct, and I wonder why that is. But that's a whole nother story. But voter suppression doesn't exist, guys. That's a liberal myth. Anyway, I take time out of my day once or twice or three, however many times a year, and I go and vote, and I vote for people that I think will be in my way the least.
We're not saying don't go vote. We're not saying that voting is not important. What we are saying is they're not going to save you.
Right. Don't depend on it. And I don't care who you vote for in November. I care, of course, but the through line, the most important thing is that people organize and that we fight for each other. We've got one more segment. Stay tuned. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate your time. If you want to see what we're up to throughout the week and get our snide quips about the news of the day, then you should follow us on social media. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/Valley Labor Report. We're on Twitter at Labor Reporters. I'm on Twitter at JacobM_AL. David is on Twitter at Radical Unionist. That's spelled RADICL Unionist. If you missed part of the show and want to go back and watch it later, search YouTube for The Valley Labor Report and subscribe to our channel. You can go back and watch the full show there, and we also clip segments throughout the week. And we also upload the program on more than 11 different podcasting apps. So you can see if we're on your listening platform of choice. You can go to thevalleylaborreport.transistor.fm/subscribe. And if you appreciate our work and want to help us stay on the air, then consider throwing us a couple dollars a month on patreon.com/The Valley Labor Report.